Welcome to the Tenant Podcast. We're doing a special episode for this week. We're actually releasing this early because we want it to be pertinent in the time frame that we have to talk about the Coors Western Art Exhibit and sale. And we have the honor and privilege of sitting down with Rose Fredrick, who is the curator of the show.
Hi.
Thank you very much, Rose.
For sitting in with us.
Thanks for asking me. I'm flattered.
This is our treat. We're just really excited for this.
So let's get some background information about this show. This is a very significant show. And so if you're listening to this somewhere else across the United States or in another country, tell us why this is such a significant show. And if you haven't experienced it, this is why we're doing this podcast, because we want people to know about this if you hadn't had the chance to come down and check it out.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That's wonderful. Yeah. So the show started 27 years ago. And if you can picture a stock show, literally cows and horses. So the National Western Stock Show in Denver, Colorado, it is situated in Denver, like in town, in the middle of Denver we just bought up a bunch more acres, but over 100 acres.
Wow.
The railroads come through I-70, I-25, and we're right here. The stock show is over 100 years old. And this was the deal. This was where you brought your cattle in to trade. We had, there were horse wranglers, there were thieves. The rodeo was here. It has such an amazing storied past. If you go to the Brown Palace downtown, they bring the prize-winning bull into the lobby of the Brown Palace to this day.
Is that right?
That is right. So that steer will be in the Brown Palace. So, like Denver comes out for the stock show. This is a major deal. An art exhibit in the middle of cows and horses and bunnies and chickens and goats and stuff is strange. And it started 27 years ago. And some of the execs at Coors Brewing Company got in touch with the president and CEO of the National Western and said, hey, we think you need an art exhibit over there. And he loved art. It was like sort of this perfect thing that came together. His mom was this artist and he loved art, and he wasn't an artist, but he said, sure, let's give it a try. They did this initial show out here at the stock show, and that president of the stock show was Pat Grant. And after that show, his mother came up to him. And if you can imagine, Pat's about 6'2", and his mother's about 5 foot. And she looked up at him and said, Pat Grant, you need help. This show needs help. And he said, well, Mother, I think you might be right. And so he hired a curator named Ann Daly. And he and Ann really kind of laid out the foundation for the show. So Ann really kind of set the tone of the show that it's a contemporary look at the West. There were 32 artists in the show. There was this tiny space up here on the 3rd floor if you come to the stock show in the Hall of Education. And Ann was there for 3 years doing that job. And then she got a position at the Denver Art Museum and had to step back. And I came out. I was one of the people who applied for the show. And I swear, I think how I got the job is that after my interview, Pat Grant was walking me to the door. And I said, Pat, don't take offense, but this place smells like how I grew up. And he started laughing. I'm like, we had horses. You were up first thing in the morning, feeding, watering the horses, breaking the ice if it was snowy, mucking out stalls, And so I just always kind of think back on that. And I think Pat probably said, yeah, she's one of us.
Right.
She kind of gets us, our culture, and she gets the art side. So that was 24 years ago. And since then, the show has grown. So now 74 artists from 32. I've increased the space. What you're seeing during the National Western Stock Show and I hate to tell people this, but it's true, is about half the art we have on opening night, because we take over the entire third floor for our gala.
Oh, wow.
And we sell on opening night. So it's a sea of tables. It's really elegant. And there's more art. I have temporary walls brought in, and we've got all the lighting going. And so we sell a lot of art. We sold 710,000 on our opening night this year, and we still are going strong.
Wow, that's
so,
awesome.
You know what? While I'm thinking of it, if people put it on their calendar to look at our website, CoorsWesternArt.com, they can come see the entire show in December. We have it up for a week in December. You can see everything. You can park right out front. It's free. You just have to look at the dates and times when it's open. Still, you're going to see something from everybody in the show, and you can see all the work online. But to me, that's the long way around to answer your question. Though I think what's really unique about this is that, would you ever expect art at a stock show?
Right.
And it's good art. It's contemporary art. I have artists from all over the country. I have Canadians. I have a German artist. It's a big national show. It's I get 450 artists applying each year. It's a tough show to get into.
So it's juried? Is there
No.
okay,
It's not juried.
Okay, so how do you select the ones that you're going to?
Yeah, so, and you know what? I think the difference between juried and curated shows, and artists ask this a lot, so it's kind of a good thing to throw out there. A juried show means that you throw your work into a pool to be considered, and there'll be a set of jurors, and they're going to pick. They're going to create a completely new show every year.
Right.
A curated show, so I basically have a stable of artists.
Okay.
And I rotate out about 18 to 20% of those artists each year. So of those 450 artists who just apply to be seen, some years I've taken 2, some years I've taken 5.
Okay.
So it's competitive, because as a curator, I'm always out looking for artists. And then my artists in the show are the best. They call me. They're like, hey, you need to come look at so-and-so. And Kwang Ho turned me on to a new guy in the show. Just stuff like that. So, but it's an eclectic show. The artists are seeing the West through that lens. What does the West mean? Contemporary issues, contemporary mediums. So I want to just keep the show really vital. What you're not going to see is historical work or throwbacks or artists who are painting subject matter that doesn't belong to them. They're not appropriating subject matter from the West, like appropriating Native American subject matter, things like that. So I really want the show to stay vital.
Right.
And talk about contemporary issues.
Now, was that your decision, or was that a committee decision?
That has been my decision. The nice thing about the way the show started in a different way because of Pat Grant's mom saying you need help and hire a curator. So instead of starting with a jurying body, like a group of people, maybe a group of artists or a group of people who just love art, and they're going to pick. It started with one person. So kind of the buck stops here.
Okay.
So I listen to everybody. I try and answer and get what people want in the show and react to what they want and what I'm hearing they want. That decision on keeping it contemporary, that started with Anne. We're a contemporary show. Once the show started to really take off, I said, look, let's carve our own path here. There are great shows out there that have those wonderful illustrators who are doing the historic work. And it's unbelievable work. They're just researching saddles and bridles and guns and vests, and every little detail of their painting is research. Well, we don't have that in the show. And part of what I explained to my advisory committee and Pat and the people I was working with is that we cannot compete with them. We're in January. We're in the stock show. If you were sitting here in this building, you would know exactly what I mean. I mean, this is like, it smells like manure. Those other shows have museum settings. They're beautiful settings.
Right.
We don't have that. So for me to get artists in the show, especially in the early days, I was really like calling in favors and, asking one artist to ask another artist for me. And I'm like, just believe in me. Will you just believe in me and don't come? Like, I don't want you to see, like, but I promise I'm going to do this for you. And we sold art. We got people in, and it was almost like a word of mouth.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And then it just really kind of grew from there. So it's been nice. I would say the artists have been really strong supporters and partners for me, because there are a lot of artists who don't fit in the Western art, in air quotes, mold. Right? They're not painting these historic scenes. They're not painting the yellow rain slicker stuff. They're not painting that romanticized. They're exceptionally talented artists. They're still Western artists, like they're looking at the West. But they don't get into those other shows necessarily. They don't fit with those other shows necessarily, because they're not painting genre, really, but they're talking about important things. And the thing that I think is so cool about this show is that, like, I've had video artists, I've got a plexiglass artist, I've had all kinds of crazy glass artists and all kinds of different mediums and stuff going on in here. My audience really likes it. They respond to it. They leave comments. They buy it, and I'm constantly hearing from patrons and my artists. They're like, we never know what you're going to throw at us from year to year. And I love that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot about what you do and the respect that they have for you. And they're excited to be a part of it.
So I want to ask, so you alluded to something that when I first thought of this show, it's a temporary setting.
Yeah.
And you would think, okay, the curator it's a temporary position, or, you come in for the couple weeks. But it sounds like, from what you're telling me, this is almost like a full-time gig, because you're always networking. You're always so how would you describe, like, your job as a curator? Is it like a permanent position, or?
Yeah, well, nothing's permanent.
Right. Well, I know that.
Yeah, no, I'm teasing. Yeah,
or full-time might be a better way, like a full-time gig, or.
Yeah, no, well, so I contract with the National Western. So, and I go, I have a 2-3 year contract with them. And then when it expires, we regroup and we look at each other and they say, so do you still want to keep doing this? And I'm like, yeah. Do you still want me to keep doing this? And they're like, yeah. So that's been nice. But the core show, so like right now, December and January are nonstop, and November's pretty busy. And then at the end of the show, when all the work goes home, then we gather in February. I have an advisory committee, and they're amazing. My advisory committee, they're doctors and lawyers. I've got a judge. I've got PR people. I've got business people. I mean, amazing people who give their time. And I can call anybody up and say, hey, I've got a question for you. And, or can you help me with this PR? Anyway, my advisory committee is fabulous. We regroup in February and we do this whole postmortem. What went right? What do we need to fix? And it's just a big free for all. And it's great because nobody takes anything personally. We're just like, yeah, you know what? We could do that better. And so I think that's the thing why there are show, because there aren't like a lot of big ego people who are involved in the, putting this together. And Krista Hanley's another one of those people. So Krista and I are the two paid people with the show.
Right.
And she does all the coordination. Like Krista, for example, is constantly sending me texts and emails and saying, I'm sure you remembered to call so-and-so, but I just thought I'd touch base. And it's always like, oh, shit. Nope, completely forgot. But she's that, so I like to tell people, Krista and I do this together.
Right.
And Krista's kind of the same as me, so she has outside clients too.
Oh, okay.
I curate for the Pace Center down in Parker, Colorado.
Okay.
And I do 7 shows a year, 7 shows a year for them and a student portfolio thing. And then Krista also has clients that she organizes their collections. And it's kind of one of those things, as we were talking about earlier, that it's sort of a job I made up in a way.
Right.
Because the show, when I started, it was very small and it didn't take much time. It was 32 artists, and it was before internet and emailing and all that kind of stuff. So I was seeing slides. I set up slide trays. Oh my God. And then just tick, 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 and I went through slides. The biggest part of jurying or selecting the artist was putting the slides in the right return envelopes and sending them back. Now, and I mean, maybe 12 people sent in slides. And so I was asking artists and trying to get artists in and augmenting with 1 or 2 from there. And so now it is a big production. So it is really, so there are times during the year when it's go, go, go. And then other times when I'm just dead on my other clients. So like I tell my other clients, December, January, you won't see me. I'll try and respond, but this comes first.
Right.
And they're all great. I just luckily set things up and it filters in around it. But it's year round looking for artists. It's year round making studio visits. And that's not just brand new artists, that's, I'm over at Willie Matthews' studio, and he's been in the show 27 years.
Wow.
And he's a big time artist, and he always calls me, Rose, I've pulled some things out for you to come take a look at whenever you're ready. Come on by. Oh,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, Kwang Ho, another one. I'm going to pop by the studio, and I pick stuff out and we talk about stuff, and it's just great, and when somebody's new to the show, I definitely try to get out to their studio. We have a lot of conversations, and it's a lot of conversations about with a new person. Don't overthink it. Don't paint for my audience. Don't think you know what they like.
That's a good point.
Because you don't.
Right.
You don't, and they will know that you're pandering to them.
Isn't that funny?
They know.
Yeah.
They totally know. So it's a lot of stuff like that. Like, you got to do what's in your heart, do what's in your gut, bring me authentic work. And the audience, trust your audience. Trust your audience, they'll respond.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
You mentioned I came and did a tour on Thursday afternoon, and they do tours here throughout the week. So if you have the opportunity in this next week.
But only on specific days, right?
Only on specific days.
Tuesday, Thursdays. They're online. And there's some other times in there too, but Tuesday, Thursdays are public tours. Come on in.
Yeah, when you're done with the Monet exhibit, come in here.
I know, right?
That's
Get a corn dog and come on up.
But I found that tour to be very informative. I loved how you did it. You not only talked about the art, but you talked about the artist. And it had like a narrative that you, described who these people were, which I think for people and your audience is people that are art buyers and appreciate art or collectors, but they're also people that may never have bought a piece of art in their life.
Yeah.
And I was enamored with the tour and how you presented it so that anybody that was there was like, wow, this is fantastic.
You.
And you were talking about how this particular year, there wasn't necessarily a theme that you put together. You have had themes in previous years. And how do you go about deciding if you're going to have a theme or if I'm just going to curate the show on what I think goes together?
Sometimes I really try and go after a segment of the art population that I feel is underrepresented. Sometimes I always try and have Native American artists in the show. And that's something that, if I can just step up on my soapbox here for a second, there are amazing Native American artists out there, and they're not painting Indians in teepees. They're not. They're painting contemporary issues today. They're talking about contemporary issues for Native Americans. And so many of them are doing it in a very humorous way, sometimes self-deprecating. It really brings in a lot of different thoughts and voices that I think if you're doing a Western art show, you need those voices. So there have been years when I've really tried for that. There have been years when I thought, you know what? It's time to tweak it up a little bit. We need some more really contemporary stuff going on in here. I need some stuff that is more abstract. We don't have completely abstract work in the show, but we get pretty darn close with some artists. Like I always tell people when I'm curating the show and I really visualize the show, which is what's so great about having Krista, because she has an art background and she's a photographer, so she's very visual too, but she's on it, like dates, deadlines, people, names. And so we have this really nice thing going together where she can say, hey, remember last year you really had a lot of blah, blah, blah in the show and you were telling me this. And so I trust her eye too. She's really good. It's just a good partnership.
Yeah, it sounds like a great team.
It is. Yeah. It is. I can't say enough about it. But as far as kind of a theme, it's really more like if I feel like there were a lot of landscapes one year, then I'm going to really try to go another direction. So here's the thing, I don't specifically say I'm going to try and make it 50-50 men and women. I'll tell you honestly, I'm always looking for women. Mm-hmm. I'm always I would love it to be 50-50. The art comes first, but I'm always going to champion women in the show. And, there are some really good, strong women artists out there. There have been for centuries really good, strong women artists out there. And they just kind of get second fiddle a lot of times. And that's not my job to fix that. But I think it is my job to have really strong voices. And when I say voices, I mean art in the show. I'm super proud of the strength of the women we have in this show too. Another thing that I really look for is of representing people of color in the show too. Mm-hmm. These are just different lenses. I like to say just how we're looking at through it with a lens, Ron Hicks is in the show. You guys should talk to Ron Hicks.
Yeah, we'd love to.
He's amazing.
That story that you told the other day about his pieces and why he and we can talk about that in a little bit, but I was like, wow, that's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
And I want to say, before going back to women, Sophie Brown's piece is phenomenal.
Isn't that amazing?
I seen it online and I was blown away by it.
When you stand in front of it?
But when you see it right there in front of you, it was it's fantastic and mind-blowing. So just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So,
see, strength, these women. They're bring it.
Huge.
Yeah. So every year we collect a piece of art from an artist. We select a featured artist. Willie Matthews was our first featured artist.
Okay.
And 27 years we've been collecting work. So Sophie's this year's featured artist. So Sophie Brown, 4 years ago, just had extreme trauma in her life. She lost several loved ones. She lost a son. She lost a husband. Her dad had died before that, all within 9 months. So Sophie stopped painting. She couldn't. And so, as a curator, that's part of my job. When you said you came on my tour and those stories, I'm always in case you couldn't tell, I'm chatty Cathy. I'm talk to people. I love talking to people. Everyone has a great story. And so I'm always talking to artists. So with Sophie, when this happened to her, it was so devastating. And my amazing advisory committee and I and Krista, and we would just send emails, send letters. We're here. We love you. And so, I just get so choked.
Oh.
I love these artists, and I'm so amazed by everything they do. So Sophie, I didn't hear from her for about a year, but I just kept I would think of her and send her an email, or send her a note. And about a year and a half later or so, she reached out and she said, Rose, I have no words. This kind of grief takes away your words. And so I'm like, I get it. And I'm here. I'm just here thinking about you. And so not long after, she emailed and she said, okay, you can come up to the studio. So we made a plan and I went up to the studio, and it was pretty bare. Her studio was bare. And you've been in artist studios. Mm-hmm. And they're just a mess. They're mayhem. They're fabulous, And Sophie's studio before, when I first met Sophie, and I walked into her studio, there were these amazing drawings. She is amazing draftswoman, horses, and she's from London. She's classically trained. And she just had these drawings, and they were laying all over the floor, and they were all, and I was like, if someone would just distract her, I'm going to roll these up and stuff them down my pants and run. But her studio this time when I came up was it was bare. And, when we talked about it, and she said, I had to get rid of all of it. Mm. She had paintings in crates, and she didn't open them. She got a dumpster brought out to the house and she threw everything in it. And she kept things. She kept stuff, of her husband's and her son's, and she held on to that. And but she wasn't doing any art. She wasn't creating. She was just grieving and that process. And so I went into her studio, and she had this huge painting it was the size of a garage door, really. It was 72 inches tall and about that wide.
Wow.
And it was this horse and cowboy of what she had been painting before, tragedy. And I was standing there looking at it because it had spray paint all over it, in parts. And it had clearly paint that was thrown at it with great force and splashed and all kinds of stuff and things torn back out of it and just, pulled back out of it or whatever. And so I'm looking at that painting, and then there's some drawings. And then she had this painting of the picador's horse. And if you know what the picador comes out before the bullfight begins and mortally wounds the bull. So he takes this spear and he sticks it into the back of the bull's neck. So the bull's going to eventually die. So he just wounds him to make it fair, right? Because bullfighting is so fair.
Yeah.
And
right.
So she painted the picador's horse on this 5 foot by 5 foot canvas. And so the picador's horse is padded. It's draped with padding. And then it has a blindfold. They blindfold it and often put earplugs. So the padding is because the bull will turn on the horse and pitch it. The blindfold and earplugs to deprive the horse of its senses. So here's this gorgeous painting of this picador's horse standing there, and behind it is this vibrant, undulating orange background. And I'm looking at that, and Sophie's telling me the story of the picador's horse. And she looks at me and she says, these paintings are all self-portraits. That's me. I saw none of this coming at me. There were warnings all around me. I saw none of it. So now, Sophie's painting, now I tell you that, and you already saw it in person, but when you go back and see it in person, and all her paintings, they're all self-portraits. So I tell people these stories, and I love these stories about the artists, and they're not always this heavy. But I tell these because these artists are humans, and they're going through so much stuff. And our artists are putting their lives on canvas. They're sculpting it. They're doing this, and they're putting it out there for us. And they're doing it through that Western lens. So here's Sophie, who came back into her studio, and we got those paintings last year. She comes into her studio, and she starts painting self-portraits. That big painting I was telling you about, the size of a garage door, that painting did not go in the dumpster because she couldn't physically get it into the dumpster. So what she started doing with that is spray painting and throwing paint at it and just taking out her aggression and her sorrow and her anger and her everything that was inside of her. And when I asked her if I could have that painting for the Coors show, if she would come back and if she wanted to, she looked at it and she was like, why? No one wants that. And I'm like, no, I think you're wrong. I think people will respond, Sophie. They're going to get this. They're going to get that emotion. And she said, let me think about it. And she did. And she said, come back up. I've worked on it some more. And it was still pretty, raw. And I'm like, she's like, do you still want it? I'm like, yeah, I still want it. And we brought that painting. We brought the Picador's horse. She did this series of paintings of horses blindfolded. Again, self-portraits. Drawings, that big painting we bought, she had a drawing of that. People got it. Her painting sold, everything sold. I mean, it's just like I talk to people about it, but you just can't help but feel that in that work. And that's why when we had the chance to buy that painting for our permanent collection here at the stock show, I was ecstatic because I always tell people when they're collecting art, and I tell my advisory committee when we're making that buying decision, I want to buy a pinnacle piece. I don't want to buy a weird one. I don't want to buy a one-off, but I don't want to buy one that's a copy of something that they're just doing over and over. I want that pinnacle piece. And for Sophie to have that piece where, again, she's just taking her emotions out on it and she's just letting her art come through and her emotion come through and speak through her that way, that's what we need to have. So that's what the show does. And that's why, so a year-round job, talking, going to studios, just sitting there listening, and that's, to me, I have the best job in the world. It's the best job. I can't believe I get to do this job, really. So anyway, that painting it's precious to me, really is.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about artists, let's talk about a couple more that I heard different stories about that I thought were interesting the other day on the tour. Tell me about William Matthews. You went to his you went to his studio and and he was out of town, but I'll let you tell it. And I thought that was an interesting story. So
Willie Matthews. So I've known Willie forever, and I love Willie. He has a big ego, and I love that about him. He is confident, and he paints with confidence. His paintings are masterful. I mean, they're gorgeous paintings. So Willie, he did this huge outdoor mural in Texas. And so it was mosaic and bronze and all this kind of stuff. And he was a little distracted with that, but he still, every year, I mean, he comes up with this great work for me. This year, he called me and he's like, okay, I've got some stuff. And if you want to come take a look. And he's like, I won't be there. I've got to go down to Texas on this, mural project. But Becky will be there, his studio director. So I head over and Becky and I are going through all these paintings and and I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, yeah, they're. And she looks at me and she's like, yeah. And she's like, well, hang on a sec. And so she walks across the floor and she opens this door and it's this closet. And I call it the magic closet because it has all these paintings of Willie's that he's done. And so she starts pulling these paintings out. And of course, I dive in right behind her. I'm like, oh, what's this? What's that? And so together we're pulling all these paintings out. And we're setting them up and we're moving stuff around. And we take like a couple of hours. And finally, we pulled this group of paintings together, some that Willie had done for me for the show and others that I found in the closet that were like a year or two old or whatever and that I'd never seen. And but together, they made this statement about modern day cowboy life. It's not romanticized, and Willie paints contemporary cowboys. He's not a cowboy, but years ago, he was invited to the first cowboy poetry reading in Elko, Nevada. And he described it as some poetry, but mostly a drinking get-together with cowboys. So he was down there and he met all these guys. And he became friends with them. And Willie is every bit as chatty as I am, so you can imagine. So he made these lifelong friends of these cowboys. And so he started painting them. And he paints in watercolor. And so he really, even though he doesn't live that life, he got to know that life by being there and getting to know them.
Being an observer.
Exactly. Talking, hearing the stories, watching. Just watching. So he actually won Best of Show this year for a painting called, let me see, is that Last Defense? And it is, First Response. And it's a cowboy trying to set a fire break for a fire, and it's a really dramatic painting. And it's been an interesting painting to have in the show because we get a lot of, cowboys and ranchers who come through the show because they're here with their cattle or their horses or, whatever they're bringing in to the National Western. They come up to see the art, which is fabulous. I love it. Love talking to them. So many people, ranchers, have gravitated to that painting. And they have actually told our volunteers, I can't believe you have a painting like that in the show. That's our life. That's what we have to do. I mean, it's really resonated. And actually, a first responder came in, a firefighter came in, and he saw that painting, and he grabbed a volunteer, and he said, wow, that is the most powerful painting in this show. I can't believe you have that. Thank you for portraying that in this show. So it was really cool to have that. And Willie was so funny because I changed out the paintings. So I chose different paintings for him. And he told me afterwards, he was like, yeah, I was not too comfortable. I was a little nervous. But they sold. He won Best of Show. They went to great collections. I mean, it was wonderful. He had a huge response and is still getting a really huge response. So it's fun working with the artists that way that, I don't want to paint. I painted for years. I don't want to paint. It's fun to work with them collaboratively as well on things like that. I love that Willie gave me that, he let me do that. And it's good to know him well enough to be able to walk in and change things up.
Again, that says a lot about how much the artists respect what you do and trust you. And I think it's interesting that even though he's not a cowboy and he doesn't live that life,
Right.
he paints these or depicts these scenes, and he chose to represent that in a painting, and how much it means to these ranchers that come through and go, wow, that's somebody gets it. They like
Exactly.
And that you have the foresight and the vision to go, I think I want this piece to be in the show.
Yeah.
I think this is your vision coming to fruition by bringing all these pieces together to a show that, it's not just cowboys and cows and horses.
No. Right.
It's very, very, I don't want to call it eclectic, but there's a lot represented there, and there's something for everyone. And I think if you come down and walk through the space, you will really get an appreciation for the work that has been done, not only from the artist, but what you've curated as far as the show goes.
Yeah.
I want you to tell, I can't get away from this since we're discussing this, but I really want you to tell the story about the idea or the series that Ron Hicks painted, because that is very powerful.
Yes.
And I was really taken by that story. So if you could describe his work and what he is showing this year and what it means or what it was about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I get asked all the time why Ron Hicks is considered Western, or it's not Western. Why is he in the show? It doesn't look Western to me, Ron is a Black man. He's a gorgeous painter, incredible. He's a figurative painter. I've known Ron for 25, going on 30 years, before he was really able to leave a full-time job and paint full-time. So I've just known him, and I know what a good painter and what a brilliant artist he is. He's an artist through and through. So with Ron's work, I've always wanted to put it in the Coors show, but it was just really so far afield. It was because he's painting figurative things and definitely not cowboys. And so I've had him in the show from time to time, but then I think it's been about 3 years or so, almost 4 years. Ron started changing his style a little bit. And so now there's a lot of abstraction in his work. If you look at his canvases, there's like this thick paint and there's mark making and paint carved back in. They're pretty abstract canvases, and the figure rises out through that abstraction versus the way he was doing it before, where he had the figurative idea. And they tended to be more romanticized kind of figurative scenes where they're, and he's kind of a romantic guy, actually. He's sweet. He's a sweetheart. And so he just really is drawn to that. But they were sort of, there were a lot of European cafe scenes and lovers kissing and holding hands. And they were just these, and then other figurative works. And he just had a huge following, galleries in New York and San Francisco and everywhere. Well, then he started to this abstraction started to work its way in and take over, but he wouldn't put it out there. See, so for an artist, you've got an audience and they love you. Changing horses is not easy. It's scary. And you could lose your audience. And you've still got a mortgage to pay and food on the table and everything else. So he was doing these paintings, but he wasn't really putting them out. But then he started putting them on Instagram. Artists responded. They're like, wow, Ron, these are great. Well, his dealer in Vail saw him and called him like, where are you hiding these? I'm coming down. And so the dealer came down and took a bunch of the work and sold them and said, Ron, keep going. So I was seeing this work too. And I'm like, Ron, I want that. I want to put that in a show. Let's do it. Because what he started doing about 3 years ago is this series called The Faces of Eve. And he was telling me he was reading the Bible and he was reading the story of Adam and Eve. And he said, Rose, I think Eve gets a bum rap. And I'm like, I've always thought that. So he kind of started this series of women, but putting them in different situations, but with this abstraction stuff happening too. And just sort of thinking about the strength of women and women as mothers and women as lovers and women, all these just different aspects of women and how women are maybe overlooked or passed over. So, of course, I loved that. I said, I want some of these Faces of Eve paintings in the show. And we sold them. And they were starting to really attract this audience. And I'm like, Ron, this is working. And his gallery was selling them. And the more we talked about them, I'm like, you need to go this path. And he said, yeah, I do. And then we really kind of drilled down into like, what's happening here? And tell me the story behind him. And not line, color, shape, texture, not the art speak. I want to know what's in you that's coming out. Because when artists really know all the basics and they're really well trained, then they just start working and their mind goes somewhere else. The controlling it goes somewhere else. And then the emotion starts to take over. And I'm like, I want to know that part. And he started telling me these stories. And again, I have known Ron almost 30 years, and I didn't know these stories. When he was raised in Denver, and then when he was in high school or just middle school, they moved to Columbus, Ohio, and he went to high school there, and he got a full ride to art school, Columbus University, Columbus Art Institute. So he went there for a couple years and decided he wanted to come back to Denver. When he came back to Denver, so he's in his 20s, he lived in Aurora, and he started getting pulled over by the police. And I have to say, so I have a stepson who's a police officer. I love the police. I don't mean to, but I'm just going to tell you this because this is Ron's story, and as a Black man, and I mean, this is part of having these voices of the West. So this is a lens of the West, a Black person's experience. So Ron starts getting pulled over. And he said he remembers the first time he got pulled over, he didn't stop at the stop sign correctly. Then the next time, he didn't stop at the light correctly. He didn't make that turn correctly. And every time, the stop took longer, to the point where he was always getting pulled over. He was constantly looking in his rearview mirror, more looking in the rearview mirror than looking forward, it seemed. When he got pulled over, it was hauled out of the car, zip-tied hands behind his back, thrown on the ground. The cops go through his car. He often had paintings in his car. They're rifling through everything. An hour later, oh, okay, you're free to go. And they take off. No one ever asked him if they could search his car. No one ever told him why. One time, he's in the car. Years ago, his son was just little toddler in the back. And he gets pulled over, and the sirens and the lights, and they come to the window, and his son in the back says, "Daddy, are they going to shoot you?" And Ron said in his mind, he thought, I don't know. So that, to me, it's important to have Ron in the show. It's important to put that work out. And you're not going to get that if you stand in front of him. But when you look at it and you see, and especially there's a figure called Veiled. If you take a look at that painting, and you can see it online too, I think it is important that we talk about the West. Scars, warts, all of it. Because how do you make a change? How do you affect change if you don't have conversations about it? And civil conversations. And artists do that so beautifully. They put that work out there for us. They bare their soul for us. So these paintings of Ron's, this is this of him rising up through that abstraction, that freeing abstraction and the motion in the canvas. And then the figures start to come out of that, and they're starting to talk. And interestingly, Sophie Brown, bought one of Ron's paintings this year. And when she and I have been talking to people in the gallery, she loves to talk about Ron because she says, standing in front of this work, I feel like these figures, these paintings are speaking to me. And she likened it to when she was young, going to the portrait gallery in London and looking at this self-portrait of Rembrandt and standing there for as long as her dad would let her because he was speaking to her through the centuries. That's what Ron's work does. So, with the Coors show and these artists, I love when people ask why, because then we can talk. We can have a conversation. And that's what it's about, And
that's the importance of art.
Yeah.
It's how we evolve. Artists help us evolve.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I truly believe there's a role for art in social justice and telling those stories like Ron's story.
Yep.
It's so important. We have to do that.
Yep, exactly.
And sometimes we even ask, are they doing enough? Are artists doing enough to talk about what's going on, especially these days? So
yeah.
I love hearing stories like that because
and I'm glad you said that because I think people when they hear Western art, they write it off. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know if you haven't been to see the show, you're gonna pigeonhole it into what you have always known Western art to be, and I hope you don't. I hope you give the show a chance because our artists are speaking out on things. Our artists are trying out new things. Everything isn't a soapbox. Everything isn't in your face. And Ron's work is not in your face.
Right.
It's very gentle. He is. That's who he is. But if you come, you're going to hear different voices. You're going to see different things. This is not what you expect. I guarantee you, it's not what you expect. We have photographers in the show. Most fine art exhibits, yeah, you're giving me the thumbs up. Most fine art exhibits won't put photographers in because that's not art. Well, it's art. Now, everybody isn't an artist, but photography is art. It's a beautiful art form. We have beautiful photographers in the show who are doing wonderful work. We have an artist who works in plexiglass. We have plexiglass saddles in the show. I mean, we have lots of printmakers, hand-pulled prints, all different kinds. We have artists who work in clay. We have these different visions of the West. People saying different things about the West, and some of them are just really talking about the pure beauty and openness and freedom of the West, Other artists have different things to talk about. It's all different. It's just like walking down a busy street. You're surrounded by all different ideas and you're just not hearing them. Well, if you come to the show, you can see those different ideas and thoughts.
Well, I really appreciated the story about Sophie Brown, and because a lot of it was I didn't think about looking at art as we've seen the Rembrandt self-portraits,
yeah.
And you can recognize that in Van Gogh self-portraits, but when you're talking about self-portraits, that's more of a metaphor, like Sophie Brown's self-portraits.
Right.
If you go to a gallery or exhibit like what you guys got here,
yeah.
and approach it and think about, is this a self-portrait? And maybe it isn't, but, ask that question to yourself.
Yeah.
It can open up a whole new view of what you see.
Right. Well, and honestly, I mean, you can kind of think of everything. If an artist is being honest and truthful and giving with the work and not really like painting in a commercial way, because when you're painting in a commercial way, you have to do a job. Mm-hmm. When an artist is painting for him or herself, that is that person.
Right.
And there are so many places in the gallery, well, everywhere in the gallery, we can stop and I can say, you've just met this artist. If you walk in and look at Billy O'Donnell's work, you've just met one of the happiest people I know. Billy O'Donnell, I see his number pop up on my phone. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm like, hold it. I got to take this. I just need the Billy O jump to my day. I love that. He makes me so happy. And his paintings just reflect the color and the vibrancy and the thickness of the paint and is just unafraid to just layer that paint on. And it's just, they're them. You're meeting them. Just take your time and meet them. It's great. It's really nice. They don't bite.
Tell me, Rose, a little bit about what happens with the revenue that's generated from this show and the important work that is done with it.
Thank you for asking. I totally forgot. So the National Western Stock Show is a nonprofit, and we're under their umbrella. So we're a nonprofit. We are raising money for scholarships. So the proceeds from our show go to scholarships for kids from rural family backgrounds. They're generally from Colorado or Wyoming, but they come from all over. They're studying in Colorado or Wyoming. They're studying agribusiness, rural family health, so medicine, nursing. They're going to veterinary school, veterinary sciences as well. So these kids, we are giving them scholarship money so they can afford to go to school. We get notes from them all the time. Thank you. I couldn't afford it. There was no way my family could have afforded this. Then they're going back to their small communities to live and work. And I don't know if you've seen, but out on the campaign trail, it's kind of become a talking point, but there's a dearth of nurses and doctors available in small communities, rural communities. You have to drive hundreds of miles to get medical help. We're kind of keeping the West alive out here. Yeah. We are helping these nurses and doctors and soon to be become and see their dream. And then I've talked to them. They want to go back. That's their community. That's their home. That's their love. So we're keeping it alive. So that's what we're doing. We usually give around $350,000 at the end of it. And that's, after commissions are paid out, our artists don't donate their work.
Okay.
That's like, people wonder that. No, it's, I actually wouldn't work on a show where artists have to donate their work. I'm for the artists. People should know they're supporting the artists as much as they're supporting scholarships. This is a hard life if you want to be an artist. It's a lot of work. You're having to pull from your inside all the time. You're having to create all the time, come up with ideas, challenge people. It's scary. You don't know. You don't have a boss. You don't have a even paycheck coming out every year, every month, every week. So their percentage, which is 70, and then we take 30. And then from those proceeds, with the table sales and with sponsorships and all that, it's usually around $350,000. So we're the biggest contributor to the Scholarship Trust. We're proud.
That's fantastic.
You should be.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
And that's 100 scholarships that are given out.
Wow.
Each year.
I live in South Dakota. Mm-hmm. There is this brain drain that happens in these smaller towns, you know, and you can't blame them. We struggle in South Dakota with pay. Mm-hmm. You can, let's say, take a teacher, for instance, you can go to pretty much any state that surrounds South Dakota and make $5,000 to $10,000 more a year.
See.
And so it's really complicated issue. So the fact that you're helping these students be able to learn what they want to do in life, and then not that you're allowing them, but it allows them to go back to their communities and give back, that's incredible.
Yep. That's the deal. That's what we're doing. So I love it.
Yeah.
And the artists love it too, because they're really, every artist to make it, somebody's had to help them. Mm-hmm. It's a community. We're really a community, and that, I'm grateful that I'm part of that community. I'm not physically creating the work, but together we're creating a work of art. So it is a community. So when they know they're part of a community that's helping these kids go to school and see their dreams come true, they love it. It's really good.
One thing I thought was really great is, as we were doing the tour the other day, you talked about there's something here for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, people, I think, are under the impression that they're going to go to this art show and they're going to have to spend $10,000 to buy a piece of art, but that is
Well,
not
they can.
Well, they can, but that is not necessarily the case. That there's something for everyone here at the Coors Art Exhibition and sale.
Exactly. And that's really the point, is that if you come in and you want to take something away from the show, we've got hand-pulled prints. And they're in the $250, $300 range. No, actually, I think I've got some for $80.
I think I did see some in there.
Yeah. Hand-pulled prints. These are works of art. And honestly, if you're a new collector, you're starting out, it's a great way to start out. They're limited in size, number, quantity that you can get. So, part of what I do when I'm adding a new artist to the show, it's not, ooh, I like this. It's like, I like this. I think this is a good fit for a niche, an area that I need somebody. Now I'm going to drive out to their studio, or if it's too far, I'm going to call them on the phone, and we're going to have a conversation. And a lot of times I have them ship some work to me so I can see it in person if I can't get there. I basically vet the artist. I want to know that this isn't just, they just hit on one really good one, and I saw it and I liked it. I want to know that they have longevity to stay. This is what they do. I want to know that they're not going to quit and just get a job, an accounting firm or something like that. You know what I mean? That's like, they're an artist. If they didn't do this, they would probably have to serve coffee because they're not good for anything else. So when you're looking at the show and coming in, you can get an actual legitimate, really collectible piece of art for $80, $100, $125. And of course, if you really are moved, we'll take $20,000 from you. We've got, $38,000. We've had $50,000, $80,000 works in the show. And so we run the whole gamut, and I just really want it to be accessible for people. I would say the majority of work is under $2,000. And there's a lot in that super affordable range. I can't afford most of what we have. So that's why, it's great to be a curator, because I get to live around it.
Right.
And enjoy it. And you know what? When I started out, so 24 years ago, and even earlier when I was working for Carol Seipel, she taught me the art business and the gallery business, from everything from making up wall tags to lighting to being a muse to the artist, how you can be there and listen to artists and keep them going. And she was just, she's my art mom. I love Carol. But even back then, fresh out of college, and I'm working in a gallery, and I remember reading in the newspaper what they had just released, the new poverty line. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, hey, wait a second. I'm below the poverty line. But I was so happy. I loved what I was doing. It didn't matter. I scraped up money and bought this house, and I had this beater car, and I walked everywhere, and that's sort of the thing, is like, art makes you happy. And so I bought art. I would scrape together money and I'd buy art I bought a painting from Ron Hicks, when he was still working full time at a company and painting at night, and I would just buy whenever I could, or trade, or do what I could to buy art. And, and so I would always laugh and tell people, if things go south, I'm going to have the best art collection under the viaduct. But, if you love art, it's just totally accessible. There are ways to buy art, and live with art. And it just makes you better. It makes it all better. It's just happy, It's good stuff.
This is a really prestigious show if you get to be a part of it. I imagine it's also, we're going to talk a little bit about business just a little bit. It sounds like it's relatively lucrative for these artists as well, because you have a lot of collectors that come through and want to see what these artists have been doing since last time maybe they saw them, or maybe it's the first time they're seeing them.
Yeah. And you know what? Kind of both sides of that coin are that it's good for the artists. At this point, where we are as a show, there are 1,100 people at our opening night gala. This year was 710,000 in sales on opening night, and we're still selling. So yes, it's really good for the artists. I've had some artists tell me this is how they gauge their year on how this show does for them. So it's important to be here. The other part about it that's good is that there are dealers who come to the show. So if an artist is new to the show, or rather new on the scene, those dealers will be contacting them. They'll pick up galleries. And something that I do with the Coors Show is I love to find artists nobody has ever seen. They're not showing anywhere, or they're really new, and I'm just excited about them. It doesn't always work, but it usually does. And some of those artists who started with us before, they really got launched, they're household names now. Around here, especially in Colorado in the West, and on the in the national show circuit, and they've got big time galleries. One artist has big galleries and a gallery in London. As far as I know, he didn't have a gallery when he started talking to me about being in the show. I was like, well, tell me where I can go see your work, because I don't like going to the studio if I don't know the work and don't feel comfortable yet. Not that I'm man or woman or kind of that thing. I just want to feel comfortable seeing the work first before I dive into the studio and really talk turkey. But he didn't. He's like, I don't show anywhere. And so when I did see his work in person, like, yep, you're in, let's do this. And man, gangbusters, just, and I think my audience really wins too, because they're coming in here and they're discovering, I'll hear people say, oh, I discovered this at the Coors Show. I'm like, yes. That's the whole thing, is like that discovery and that new excitement of, and what are the artists doing that's exciting, but who's that new person you've never heard of? And my audience, God, I love them. They embrace it. They embrace the new, they embrace unusual. It's fabulous. It's really good to put the show out there and have it be seen and enjoyed by people and collected.
And every year, you mentioned before that you pick one piece that you acquire for the collection. Where is that housed?
Well,
is that something that the public can see, so they can see the art from all these different years? Or
it is. Well, actually, where we're sitting in this room, this is our collection, but it's not all of it, because we've outgrown our space. So we actually, so the National Western is undergoing a big metamorphosis. They bought up another almost 200 acres. So if you come out here, you'll see like a lot of empty space. That's all going to be buildings, or well, not all of it. There's going to be parking, but there's going to be a building in the next 2 to 3, 4 years. It's called the Legacy Building. We're going to go in there. Our collection's going to go in there. So we just had this wonderful couple just put up the money for the art gallery in there. So our art will reside on the first floor of the Legacy Building. Yay. And then the Coors Show will also happen in that. I think we're going to be on the second floor. There's going to be a big space, 10,000 square feet, where we can have it. Right now we're about 3,500 square feet.
Wow.
So we're going to have 10,000 square feet. And so we're going to move to the Legacy Building. So keep an eye out for us. We'll be here for the next, 2-3 years until that happens. But then our collection will be in one place. So if you want to see the collection, it's a little tough to see it right now, but you can come ask during the year, or, reach out through our website and see when there's a time you can come in and take a look. It's online, which isn't as fun as seeing it in person. Mm-hmm. But that big painting we collected of Sophie's, it's the one we got is 72 inches tall. And so it was great when my advisor committee, when we all made the final decision to get that piece, then somebody said, wow, where are we going to put that? And the room got quiet. And all of a sudden, one of my committee members said, well, I'll take it for the first month. And then like everybody was like, and then me, I'm next. It was awesome.
So can you see that here, or is it in storage kind of thing?
I really, I don't know, because it's got to be somewhere safe.
Right.
Like if it's too close to the ground.
Yeah.
We're going to, once the stock show's over, we're going to have to it'll probably go in an office.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, we might actually end up schlepping it between our houses. Oh, man.
Well, I would love to see it. That's for sure. So,
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners about the show or anything that we didn't cover?
No, you guys are great. This was wonderful. Just come down and see it. I hope you come by and see it. And I'm here all the time. Well, not all the time. Okay, I shouldn't say that. I'm here, it feels like all the time.
Right.
But I'm here a lot. There are tours online. There's just so much stuff going on too. I mean, make a day of the stock show, because I mean, you can go down and pet some cows and feed some bunnies and look at art and watch dog trials. And, I mean, you can see a cattle auction, and, honestly, it's just great. I just love it. I mean, I really do. I mean, this smells like how I grew up, and it's great. I'm home. I love it here.
Well, Rose, I have to say something before I forget. You do have the greatest job in the world.
I do, don't I?
I just love, I'm just like, I'm sold. If like you were saying, hey, Wes, do you want to do this? And then you explained it, I'd be like, I'm on it.
Right?
It sounds, it's incredible.
Oh my God, I love it. It is. It's the best.
This is the first time I've been around this Coors show, but I did walk through looking for you.
Yeah.
And looking at the art, and looking at the art in this room is it's beautiful, beautiful pieces of work.
Thanks.
And so you've done a fantastic job of curating this.
Thank you.
And I know that your advisory board has got to be super proud of you. And so congratulations on everything you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's a team effort.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen without an entire team. It's a major effort.
And we really want to sit down with you again and really talk about Rose.
Oh,
and
wow.
hear your background, because I just reading your bio on your website and the fact that you're a published author.
Yeah.
And the books that you've published, the 9 books that I seen that you had published
on artists, monographs on artists.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just really want to delve into that. So, but
fabulous.
Thank you for the opportunity of coming here, and thank you for taking time out of your busy day. And I know you came here for us, so I really do appreciate that. So,
well, I'm going to go pet some bunnies. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we sign off here, tell people, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and we'll put it on when we post this, the show runs for one more week.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if people want to check out the exhibit, they can't make it down, where do they go to see the art?
So the show runs through the 26th. Go to our website, CoorsWesternArt.com, and you can find the hours of the show. You can look at everything. And, like I was telling you at the beginning, about half the art has gone out to clients already, because I have to condense it all back in. Once we have the new space, I won't have to do that. It can all stay up through the entire show, but you can see everything online at our website. And you can get the hours, and there is free parking out here. Definitely during the week is a little easier than when there's a major rodeo going on. But there's, make a day of it. Come out. I'll be here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate this. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Thank you.